I want to talk about some things that have been on my mind. And really where we have to begin is when I talk about giving the brutal, straight, and honest truth. I think about what it is that everywhere I go, I divide. I am a disaster for this space. In terms of people's mental health, I admit that. You know, almost every other party member or guerrilla that I meet, who are my brothers, by the way, I'll take a bullet for y'all, by the way. They tell me, you know, Haas, you saved my life. And so the sword cuts both ways, though. The amount of benefit that I bring by giving you these sober, brutal truth pills or whatever also causes a lot of coping and mental devastation and psychological issues for other people. I inspire the same devotion that you have in this cause, the same devotion you have that I inspire you with, to an equal extent and an equal proportion. I inspire hatred and I inspire opposition. And that's just the price of having a very powerful message. Frankly, this is why we are so contentious, by the way. And so it leads people to say, you're COINTELPRO, you're feds, you're disrupting the movement. And this is the crux of what I want to get to be honest. Your so-called movement has had decades to get its shit together. And I understand there's this vague idea that this is the left, and you just don't quit. This is the left. This is everything else is right wing. This is the left. And I understand there's this Obama psychological mental dome people lived inside, this bubble, where the line kept going up. Oh, gay marriage and transgender, all these things. Oh, how wholesome. Ellen DeGeneres and all these things. How wholesome. Obama, black people are equal now. There's no more racism, and everything is just getting better and better, and we're progressing, and so wholesome and so loving, and everything's becoming so great. And then the dark forces, the reaction, so to speak, right? That represents the resurgence of neo-fascism, because we were on course for a normal trajectory before the neo-fascists came. You know, the people who are contradicting this hegemony in some way, that with these really brutal, ugly, dark things, racism, sexism, all these dark, evil, really bad things. And our default is that we're a wholesome, progressive society. We're a wholesome, loving, progressive society that is left-wing inherently, right? Because we all put a smile on. I'm crazy, sorry. I'll calm down. We are a wholesome, progressive, left-wing society, and there's a neo-fascist menace and threat, the Dark Enlightenment, the neo-reaction. This was all an aberration that just came out of nowhere. Totally unnatural aberration. It's neo-fascism, and we need to go back to our Obama safe space where we're all normal. We're all normal here. We're in our Obama safe space. We work in, you know, human relations and a corporation or something, and you work for the New York Times. I work for the Daily Show with what's his name, Stephen Colbert, right? Whatever, Jimmy Kimmel, whatever. It's like this, just like this Hollywood facade of just wholesomeness and happy, wholesome chungusness that people live and dwell within and live and die by. And it's the source, Ellen DeGeneres, just the source of people's mental health and stability and sense that they're living in a stable, normal world and everything's fine. And then apparently, if we want to be communists, it's that. I love Pokemon. It's that, like Brandon Torres. I love Pokemon. I love Donkey Kong. I love Mario. I love... You love all these things. And then in addition, we're so wholesome, we're going to take the Obamunism to the next level, and we're just going to all hug each other and become part of... And then here I am pooping on the party. And apparently that makes me a fascist. I just have a few objections. That's all that I would like to get out. And you're like, Haas, why the fuck are you talking about Obama? It's 2026. Because, believe it or not, people still haven't left the bubble from the Obama era. Their sense of social progress comes from the Obama era. Their sense of where everything went wrong was after Obama. This is implicitly what these people believe. This is how they've measured progress so far. Sometimes I see these people say we're in an era of global counter-revolution. I wonder why they're saying that. We're living in an era after 1991, after the dissolution of the Warsaw Pact, after Libya. And then I realize you're talking about the Trump era, after Obama. This is just the era of darkness, and everything was light before. I hate to poop on the party. I know apparently being a party pooper is right wing now. Fuck, I don't know what I could say to get through to people. I gotta get through to these kids, you know. I got like in South Park. I got to get through to, but instead of kids, it's like grown 25-year-old autistic people. But why the fuck do I? Because I'm trying to get through to them, even these retard furries and these disgusting people. Because I know if I bother you this much, I've caught your attention. There's something about what I'm saying that bothers you, right? And I would just like you to listen to that worm of doubt a little more intensively. And the truth is that I used to be like you. I used to be a bog standard American leftist. Wouldn't say bog standard, but I definitely understand that point of view a lot. I remember the sense of revulsion and fear and shock upon being confronted with the illiberal tendencies. Believe it or not, Harsh, what's up? I had a conflicted reaction to Trump's presidency for sure. But there was something about it I found very, very dark. And I remember learning about Curtis Yarvin and then Nick Land. I remember learning about them, and I remember how much anxiety it would cause me. I used to be a shitlib in a way, right? I remember when I was in college, I'd be sitting on the couch looking at the wall, thinking about Land on numbers, you know, his understanding of his kind of debasement of numerology and stuff. And I just was losing my fucking mind. There was just this overwhelming sense of anxiety that I had that, like, why should we be biased and believe that the material world is inherently left-wing? What if it is true, you know, that all these things that the right is saying, in addition to all of the fucking memes, it's like, what if, you know, what leads us to believe that the progressive Obama society we live in is actually a reflection of reality? And these doubts bothered me. They bothered me. I felt an immense sense of anguish and anxiety. I remember it. I understand the reaction we elicit in the so-called liberal leftists. It's probably the same thing. When they see us be so politically incorrect, when they see me so casually deal with thinkers and ideas that come from the right in a way that just like I show no fear and I'm not intimidated by it, there's this instinctual revulsion that what it really is they have this security system that they call the left, and they see a breach in the system. That, you know, the reason we get fed jacketed all the time is because people see us as an infiltration in this kind of mental, psychological security system they have, which ultimately comes from the Obama era. And they still haven't learned why the Obama era is past us. They still cling to this delusion that there is a continuity of social progress and democracy and all these kind of things that has merely been detracted from the rise of a neo-fascist right. And I spent a lot of time isolated and thinking about what all this meant. And the more I started to really psychologically come to terms with the direction that we're taking as a society, as a world, What does it mean existentially, metaphysically? I mean, like, is land right? Are the nihilists correct? The more I realize something, I really became disgusted with leftists. I became disgusted with them because while I was being exposed to the hideousness of the right-wing ideas, and what bothered me about right-wing thinkers wasn't that their ideas were compelling. It bothered me that people thought this way, that this is how people reacted to existence, to life, and to the world. And with the rise of big tech, I observed that, okay? The reason why I scoff and brush off people talking about big tech and Palantir in 2026 is because I was freaking out about it in 2014. Nobody gave a fuck. DSA people did not they thought I was a schizophrenic lunatic when I would talk about how big tech is like neo-fascist, and like they didn't give a fuck. They just kind of looked at me like I was crazy and were like, well, you know, Facebook's pretty wholesome. Now every other YouTube video is one of these shitlib Vox or something talking about how the dangers of big tech, and you're too late. You're way too late. Yeah, they used to love you, Elon Musk. Absolutely. I had Trump derangement syndrome before Trump was elected. I was fear-mongering about it, and I fell on deaf ears from leftists who were living in a bubble. They couldn't imagine it. It was like they lived in this bubble where the world was inherently wholesome, and don't worry, these are just some nasty, bad, bigoted people, and love will prevail, and Hillary will win. And then after Trump won, I felt betrayed a little bit. I felt betrayed by the sense of complacency and delusion and falsehood that had been created by the left. The way that they would lie to themselves, that there wasn't a fundamental shift happening, that they just weren't equipped to respond to in any kind of way. This way they would just dismiss any attempt to bring it up and be like, hey, this is a fucking problem. You want to know how I got these scars? Well, that's how it started. I used to be a bog standard libtard, retard leftist. But, I just had the courage of a little self-awareness. I didn't get taken for a ride after all these horrific things in the breakdown of our overt customs and manners and ideologies happen at the public level. Oh, I never had this reactive knee-jerk reaction because I had the foresight to see where things were headed. I was sitting here thinking about what direction are we going in. And it's almost as if to think in a long-term way was to speak a language that was alien to these so-called leftists. And then as time went on, this was during the Trump 1.0, by the way. Time went on, I began to grow just more bitter in a way, looking at leftists and seeing their hypocrisy. That's what killed me. I became instinctually disgusted by the worldview that leftists lived in, the world they lived in, the bubble they lived in. Because wait a second, all of this shit was happening under Obama. Under Obama, we were killing and blowing up kids with drones. We devastated entire nations like Libya. Big tech was consolidating first under Obama, this techno-fascism people now talk about. And we were entering a very ruthless, brutal fucking world. A really ugly, dark, brutal fucking world. But we just weren't allowed to reflect that in our vocabulary. Because if we did that, we would somehow be accused and be culpable. Just by passively reflecting it. We're reinforcing it. The more we just create a bubble and insulate ourselves from the ugliness and brutality and darkness of the world, the more we get a self-satisfactory sense that we're no longer culpable in it, but you are. There's nothing about the Trump era that was more hideous than the Obama era. Actually, it was just more honest. And what does that say about these liberal leftists? They are not more left-wing than Trump. They're just liars. They just sanitize and purify their fucking language. They create a mental safe space and they isolate themselves from the ugliness and brutality and ruthlessness of the world. And they think that makes them morally superior, as if they're not equally culpable in the state of the country. But the fundamental question remained. I mean, how can you maintain faith in the communist cause, in Marxism, in the broad left-wing tradition, without this copium mental safe space security system, which was not reflective of reality? So how can you embrace the real? The reason I spent so much time and contemplation and introspection and stuff is because I wanted to know, what does it really mean to give way to the real? You know, liberal leftists, these Redditors, they believe that like ultimately they do reflect the truth of reality. You know, like, oh, well, the science, Neil deGrasse Tyson agrees with us, and they never question it. And so there's this kind of passive guarantee in the institutions that rule society, this fundamental trust in them. Sophia, what's up? Thank you for the 5. And there's no authentic encounter with the real, with nothing, without any mediation, in a sense. You know, like, okay, what about outside of your safe space? Can you just honestly face the truth of the reality you live in without a filter? And this is what I tried to do for years, you know, and I guess the, you know, origins of the restored faith I have in the revolutionary tradition and in Marxism and in the good, really more broadly, this is what we're talking about, is that I started to understand and accept that the reason there is an alignment between the innate sense of justice and good and whatever that we aspire toward and the real, the world as it really and truly is because that's where it comes from. It doesn't come from these institutions. It doesn't come from these institutions that protect our democracy. It doesn't come from these fake, inauthentic safe spaces we create. It comes from the real. And it's on us to rediscover that. And when I really embrace that fact, when I embrace the fact that, you know, we need to face reality without a filter and still have the faith and the confidence that reality aligns with, even at the most vague possible level, our deepest human aspirations. Which to me was the whole secret of Marx's materialism. All that anxiety and fear I had about the far right disappeared. Totally disappeared. I was no longer intimidated by the right. I mean, it was just like, I kind of now could understand what it was. What was the vital source of power that it drew from? And some people say that, you know, you guys are part of the far right's cultural hegemony. And I'm like, you're a fucking retard. Look what you're looking at since 2016 has been the breakdown of liberal hegemony. The absence of political correctness and the absence of these guardrails on acceptable forms of thought is not the positive consequence of some ideology. Ideologies are not materially real. That's fundamentally idealist. There's nothing neo-fascist or far-right about emancipating yourself from the liberal Obama safe space copium bubble that you live in. There's nothing far-right about that. You're embracing the wilderness. You're going out and embracing the real, the wilderness. If you don't have the faith and the confidence that as a consequence of this encounter, you cannot discover the essence of the revolutionary tradition of Marx, Engels, Lenin, Stalin, Mao, etc. You're unworthy of the name Marxism. Stop calling yourself a Marxist. You're not a Marxist. Not honestly, at least. You don't believe in it. And so I'm being very good faith about the source of people's problem because it's not rational. It's something deeply psychological. We are coded as far right because we are outside of a safe space. We're not trapped within a discursive and semiotic prison. And for this reason, outside of the prison, they say that's only the far right is there. But it's not just the far right that's there. It's also the potential and the possibility of a real left wing. The real left wing. The one that Lenin was a part of. The one that Robespierre was a part of. The one that Che Guevara was a part of. It's outside of the safe space. Not within. It's outside. And the potential is there. It's not just the far right. The far right is filling a vacuum that the left should be occupying. But it's this abominable, disgusting liberal left safe space that they dwell and live and eat and breathe within. That is the far right, objectively. You are the far right. You are the sanction. You are the veneer. You are the justification. You are the kind of fantastic whitewashing of an extremely hideous, brutal reality that you are culpable in for no other reason than the fact you're unwilling to be honest about it. You're not anti-racist because you're unwilling to confront the reality of racism through humor. You're more of a racist. You're unwilling to confront the reality you're part of. You haven't created some avant-garde society devoid of the evils that our society is victimized by. You're more culpable in them because you're repressing them. You're ignoring them and denying them. You're a liar. You are the far right. You are the right wing. And all these alt-right, whatever people, they're just fake revolutionaries. I mean, Logo came to understand this himself. These are people you could qualify in the same way, like reactionary socialists, utopian socialists, whatever. These other varieties of people who had a problem with the system. And I just want to make it clear that we haven't broken ranks from the left because we've left this semiotic and discursive safe space that they live and breathe and reside within. An ordinary person doesn't automatically live in that safe space. An ordinary person is very politically incorrect, says bad jokes, and tells it how it is, how they really feel. The burden is not on us to prove that we've adopted some far-right ideology. The burden of you is to prove what is so left-wing about your Obama safe space that you live inside. And I want to talk about I try to be patient with God. I try to be patient in the sense of, I ask God that, please, whatever outcome comes of this, just make it aligned with something that's just, a just outcome. And I try to have the patience to understand why things are the way they are. But I can't shake off a fury and a rage I have inside of me. No matter how patient I try to be. An extreme hatred and rage I have within me. That we are isolated as we're these outside infiltrators. We are this far-right menace. We cannot tolerate you within the left. You're not part of our left. Anyone who hates ACP on the left, you're my friend. You're this big problem. ACP is this big issue. Let's freak out about ACP like you are clearly you're like a thumb sticking out. You're a big fucking problem. The line is drawn here. You're far right and we're the left. And I look at your left. I look at your left of Kate Abu Ghazala. I look at your left that is not even united on the basic issue of what is your attitude toward the Russian special military operation? What is your attitude toward the one China policy? What is your attitude to the so-called state of Israel? What is your attitude to the key fundamental issue of actually existing socialism and U.S. imperialism? What is your actual stance concretely in relation to Iran and to Hezbollah? There are fundamental divisions on the so-called left that are not regarded as fundamental by these leftists. They're non-antagonistic contradictions. What are the antagonistic contradictions? Transgenders. That's my fucking problem. Do you understand? It's not even transgenders, because truth be told, we don't give a fuck about that issue. It's how we talk about these things. It's the callous way in which we just speak like normal people. We don't have this filter. We don't have political correctness. We aren't intimidated by we don't mind making fun of and memeing right-wing ideas if it amuses us and we find it funny. It's not like we take it seriously, but it's like we are very brutal and realistic about the world. I mean, it's just like an extreme brutal understanding of what is reality, right? Without a filter. And that is the antagonistic contradiction for them, that they are paranoid about ACP inside their walls. But inside their walls are supporters of the Kiev regime in Ukraine. And inside of their walls are supporters of NATO. Inside of their walls are supporters of separatism within China. Inside of their walls are people who are Zionists. That never rose to the status of an antagonistic contradiction for them. So yes, we insist on a division. If we have to represent the red line, so fucking be it. But your left is fake. Your left is a facade that comes from fucking Obama. It's not a real left. If you're fucking uniting NATO supporters with self-proclaimed Marxist-Leninist anti-imperialists who are pro-trans, I guess, if you guys consider yourselves part of some vague milieu that you share that's distinct in some qualitative way with us, you're not Marxists. You're not part of the revolutionary tradition of history. You're a bunch of spineless pieces of shit united very cynically by a common class interest of these petty bourgeois professionals who live and work and shit and breathe inside of these fucking bubbled in, safe space corporate environments that you mistaken for the real world. Digital artists and fuck you, literally fuck you. I don't understand it. We're the red line. I'm honored. We should be honored. Don't you fucking dare call us far right, you piece of shit. You are literally getting fucked inside your own ranks. You don't give a fuck, you cuck. There's fucking NATO supporters in your fucking ranks. There's fucking Ukraine supporters. There's Israel supporters. There's fucking Yanis Varoufakis, who's against Iran, called for regime change in Iran. People that fucking called for regime change inside Syria. People who fucking denounce the axis of resistance. You don't fucking lose your mind about those people like you do about us. Fucking Kate Abu Ghazala and that fucking Zionist bitch Zoran. You don't give a fuck about that. You don't lose your fucking mind and get paranoid about that. It's only us that trigger you. Why is it only us that trigger you? Inside your own fucking camp, inside your own fucking ranks where you're all fucking holding hands in your fucking safe space coping together about how much you're united against the ACP, who the fuck are you holding hands with, you piece of shit? You want to be fucking pure? Be fucking pure. Look to your shoulders side to side. You're fucking NATO supporters, Israel supporters. Enemies of socialism worldwide, enemies of the CPC, enemies of the sovereignty of the Russian people, enemies of the Islamic Republic. This is who you break bread with? Oh, we're just not sectarian. So why the fuck are you sectarian when it comes to us? Because admit this, you piece of shit. Your fucking red line is some nebulous bullshit political correct language tone policing about transgenders rather than children being mutilated and blown up by the fucking bombs your politicians sign on to sending. Your politicians, the ones you fucking promote. By the way, none of these people have been held accountable. How many fucking Hillary staffers were held accountable? How many of these fucking Kate Abu Ghazala Zoran shills? How many of these fucking people have been canceled for their past? No, I've learned. I've become more mature. I've learned. Really? You've learned? They dare try to denounce MAGA communism. MAGA communism was the most vindicated strategy in the entire history of the 21st century U.S. left. Why? Because the MAGA base, where has it shifted? What is the shift going on? Anti-Israel, anti-war, anti-Trump, anti-regime. How has the Democrat base shifted in the past 2 years? Well, they've doubled down, increased support of NATO. They become more Zionist. They become more interventionist, like that bitch, Kate Abu Ghazala. They become more in favor of the regime. Without Trump, of course, but fundamentally, they think Trump is a troublemaker within an otherwise good, well-oiled regime that they support. Because transgender rights are non-negotiable, right? So we'll bomb your country and we'll invade your country and attack you. And that is how they've shifted. They have shifted more towards support of NATO and the imperialist state machine. How has MAGA shifted? MAGA shifted in the opposite direction. So tell me how MAGA communism wasn't vindicated, you fucking idiot. The Democratic Party has shifted more pro-imperialist. MAGA has shifted in the opposite direction. And they'll try to pull up, by the way, if you clip this without showing this part, they're going to pull up a poll of, oh, what about MAGA? Yeah, everyone who still calls themselves MAGA, of course, supports what Trump is doing. But how many people used to call themselves MAGA now agree with Tucker Carlson and Candace and the rest of them? And you know something? Hassan Piker said some crazy shit recently, okay? I couldn't believe how blatant he was about this.
I know the devil man.
Trying to find the short. There's a YouTube short. This is it.
Know the worst?
He calls this the worst possible outcome. I'll explain exactly why.
You want to know the worst possible outcome for 2028? Tucker Carlson runs on an anti-Israel platform in 2028, and the Democrats put forward a pro-liberal Zionist, pro-defending America's military might candidate.
But why would that be the worst outcome? Like, what if it was... Why? Because Hassan inherently believes the Democratic Party is better. But why, honestly, I want you to think about that lineup. The fact Hassan is entertaining that as possible proves he should admit MAGA communism was vindicated. Who saw that? Who saw the possibility of that coming? That there would be a significant enough electorate and base that would support that kind of platform that comes from MAGA. Look what else he admits.
Tucker Carlson wins by Ronald Reagan numbers, not only by winning over the MAGA crowd, which he has complete control over, in my opinion.
So apparently MAGA is no longer Trump because Tucker Carlson has complete control over the MAGA crowd. So how are we not fucking vindicated about MAGA communism? Because even if you're a pro-Ukraine retard, my rage is still justified because there are self-proclaimed MLs who do share formally our position on that issue, but for whom it's not an antagonistic contradiction. If you understand what's going on in Ukraine, then it should be an antagonistic contradiction for you. But for them, it's not. Transgenders are.